Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today. But before I get started on my subject, I just want to mention a few things. First of all, Lynn, thank you for the Facebook message, because if you would not have sent that message, I wouldn't be making this video. And I like making request videos. I like making videos that people themselves want to see and put in requests for, because that makes it real easy for me to decide what I want to talk about. Plus, new places that I haven't talked about. Plus, sometimes just a simple suggestion leads me to come up with a pretty good idea for a video, but we're going to go down to the Azores today. But first, I want to make a couple channel recommendations, and I think this is important. First, I'd like to mention this person's channel right here. This is JJ Ainsworth, and her channel's name is Megalithic Maiden. And I just found this the other day, and here is her channel. And after I made my Sardinia video a few days ago, on my suggested video, one of her videos, I think it was one of her first ones from Sardinia, popped up as a suggested video. And I checked it out and checked out her channel, and I was totally impressed. Her latest video is at Alacahoyuk in Turkey, which has some stonework very similar to sites you see in Peru and a few other places. And the pic I showed you at the beginning from the video is from a lecture she did with Megalithomania UK. So I was just very impressed with her whole channel and her experience as a researcher, and I'm just sorry I hadn't found her channel sooner. But she goes to many different places. She has been to a lot of places I have talked about. She even went to Karahan Tepe, the place near Göbekli Tepe that has T-shaped pillars poking out of the ground, and it has not been excavated. And she just did a quick video there. It was super windy, and I imagine impossible to make a video at that time. But she's been to Baalbek, she's been to Egypt, she's been to Scotland, she's been to Göbekli Tepe, she's been to the Osirian, and she is a pretty serious researcher, and I can tell she really loves what she does. And I enjoyed just the little bit of correspondence that I had with her, and I totally recommend her channel. It's Megalithic Maiden, and I will leave the link below. And I look forward, JJ, to watching some more of your videos. And the other channel, it's called Uncharted X. And on my recommended channel list for a long time, I had Pico Productions. And this is Ben's channel from Pico. And he has some excellent videos already, and I'm sorry I haven't found your channel yet, Ben. I just am kind of a space cadet sometimes. But excellent videos. His latest one goes over the ancient engineering and on the second pyramid, and I made that video about 3 months ago where the base of that is actually carved out of the rock. And that was very surprising to me, and I know Matt at Ancient Architects covered that same subject. And that was a total shock, because I have heard Robert Schoch mention that parts of the main mound are probably underneath the pyramids of Giza, but you just can't see them. Well, you can see them. And here is just a little bit of a clip from Ben's video where he goes over how these 3 steps here in the middle pyramid are carved right out of the natural bedrock. And I just thought this was an excellent video. But just a real good look at the base of the middle pyramid, the bottom steps carved right out of the natural bedrock. And these are just excellent videos. Graham Hancock featured here. So please subscribe to Ben's channel, and hopefully in the future we are going to do a little corresponding and maybe make a video. But today's video is about some ancient ruins in the Azores and pyramids, and this was surprising to me. I did not know about pyramids in the Azores, and I have not seen videos on pyramids in the Azores because none of the channels I watch has covered such ruins, and I found this highly fascinating. And it's not just pyramids. We have some stuff that's very ancient in the Azores. And once again, Lynn, thank you for sending me that message on Facebook. The dates vary on some of these websites, but this is the Portuguese American Journal. It says, Pico, new archaeological evidence reveals human presence before Portuguese occupation in the Azores. And that is an understatement. It says, archaeologists from the Portuguese Association of Archaeological Research have identified new archaeological evidence on Pico Island that supports their belief that human occupation of the Azores predates the arrival of the Portuguese by many thousands of years. The new evidence comprised of a great variety of protohistoric pyramidal rock structures, some of them 13 meters tall. The Azorean archipelago was discovered uninhabited by the Portuguese around 1427. Archaeologists working on the site believe the structures were created by an ancestral occupiers of the island, suggesting they were places of worship with funeral ritual purposes. They have said that dozens of similar structures have been identified in the Magdalena area of Pico Island. They believe the structures may have been built according to an oriented plan aligned with the summer solstices, which suggests they were built with an intended purpose. Now here is some researchers on a pyramid-type structure in the Azores, and I know a lot of you remember a story about an underwater pyramid found off the Azores about 5 years ago. I know I remember that story, and I don't know. I don't think that was ever proven to be a fact. But if anybody has any information on that, leave it. But I know I sure haven't heard of any. But here is one pic of a structure on Pico. Here is another one, and I'm just going to call this the Leaning Pyramid of Pico. Now this is ancientwisdom.com, and I'll leave a bunch of links below, but one of those says that there are over 100 pyramidal type structures that I just showed in the Azores. And there just isn't a lot of info on this, so I'm glad I did in this video. Maybe it'll spark some further looks into this. But here is a look at a megalithic construction on Terceira. But here are some hypogeums cut into cliff faces. And one theory is that Carthaginians were here a long time ago. And there are just many theories, and not a lot of really good research, I don't think, has been done on the ancient structures on the Azores. But I think one of the most fascinating things about the Azores is we have these what are called cart ruts that are cut all the way through the rocks, and I don't think there is any really good explanation for these. Maybe we are just looking at it through our modern way of thinking. Maybe that's why we haven't come up with a good answer for these. But right into the rock, and let me just do a little reading. The presence of cart ruts on the Azores is one of the most unexpected facts to present itself in the search for the first settlers on the Azores. These enigmatic features are found in large numbers around the Mediterranean basin in Italy, Portugal, and France, and most famously on Malta. But here I did a video about maybe 4 years ago where I showed the cart ruts on Malta and some ancient ruins. These cart ruts, as they're called, on Malta are a huge mystery. But finding them outside of the Mediterranean is very surprising. And let's just continue reading here. There are 3 physical explanations for the existence of cart ruts. They were carved into the rocks to facilitate the passing of some sort of vehicles. They were worn naturally by the passing of numerous vehicles over a long period of time. They were made by a passing of a single vehicle over soft substrate, which has since solidified. Now, some of those are a little more absurd than others, I think, but it says all these possibilities pose problems in the case of the Azores. The first alternative requires a large supply of manpower, lots of time, and considerable motivation. The second requires considerably more time and an immense amount of traffic. The third option is entirely refuted by geologists. But it says the Maltese cart ruts have shown to have been in association with the temple building period around 3000 BC. Here is another pic of some cart ruts. But what's really interesting about these, as this is on Malta, these cart ruts, as they are called, go right down into the sea. And it really makes you wonder, how old are these? And did somebody bring these from outside of the Mediterranean, this technology, whatever these were used for, inside of the Mediterranean a long, long time ago? But this is a video I also made a while ago on the Tenerife Pyramids, and that's what the Azore Pyramids remind me a little of. They're not too big, and the dating, well, it's all up for speculation. I'll also leave a few websites below. This is also the Portuguese American Journal, but they found prehistoric rock art in caves, and I found this all Very fascinating. And this pic right here, well, but that pic right there, that just looks like a mound that has been covered up by time. Maybe a natural hill, but that pic looks interesting to me. And here is another website I will leave below, but they go over some carving into rocks that some theorize is some sort of calendar system. And there is just some controversy because I just don't think a lot of work has been done on these. But pretty amazing place. The Azores looks absolutely beautiful, and it just makes you wonder. But here are some more cut marks and some rocks. But I found this all very fascinating. I will leave this link below. It looks like a face carved in the rock right here. I find the ancient history on the Azores pretty fascinating. And speaking of by request, by far, the questions I have had the most are Atlantis questions. And what do we really know? Well, for sure, to me, after reading all of Plato, I think it was clearly in the Atlantic Ocean. What does Randall Carlson think? He likes the Azores as a possible location to what we commonly refer to as Atlantis, some civilization that we have lost track of in prehistory. Well, let me just play a clip and I'll leave some links below.
That if you go back to the original accounts of Plato, and which is basically about 98% of our information on Atlantis comes from the two dialogues of Plato, Timaeus and Critias. And most everything that has been written, and there's been thousands of works written on Atlantis, are ultimately derivative from Plato's original account. So what I do is I recommend to people, go back to Plato's original account and take the details of what Plato says. And there's been so many proposed locations for Atlantis, and every single one of them has to deviate in one respect or another from Plato's pristine account and the details that he provides there. But it's clear from his account that, it would have been in the Atlantic Ocean and nowhere else. It's clear from his account, and this is confirmed by going back to the original Greek languages he used too, that, it was outside the Pillars of Heracles, which puts it, outside the Straits of Gibraltar into the Atlantic Ocean and not in the Mediterranean. And, he specifically gives the date at least 3 times in the dialogue, which is 9,000 years prior to Solon's exile in Egypt, which occurred at about, 600 BC. So if the demise of Atlantis occurred 9,000 years before Solon's trip to Egypt, that places the demise of Atlantis, the subsidence of Atlantis, as Plato describes it, at 11,600 years ago, which has been generally dismissed by a lot of modern researchers who try to take a more conventional approach to it. Yet it's interesting that date coincides exactly with what's known as the Younger Dryas Preboreal transition by paleoclimatologists. And this is one of the great climate warmings that terminated the Ice Age right at 11,600 years ago.
Now here is the Azores today. What did this place look like before sea levels rose up sharply at the end of the Ice Age? Well, that is a great question, but this is a volcanic place. Today, there are calderas full of water that are above ground, and there are some that are underwater and at certain depths. Now here is a pic from the 1800s, a drawing that was done of one of these calderas filled with water. Was a place like this used that is now way underwater, but look like this? If it looked like this today, there are places around this island chain that existed like this that are now underwater. There are ancient calderas underwater. Was a place like this used as a capital of a place we call Atlantis? Well, that seems to be as good a fit as any. But when looking at this drawing, I just got a certain feeling, but I think that looks pretty cool. And a place like this, if it existed a long time ago, maybe it was a place, a capital of some great people. But did a culture exist here a long, long time ago? People say this is a good possibility for Atlantis. Well, did a culture from here bring a civilization to Egypt and other places? Well, that's all up for speculation. But I've had a lot of questions on Atlantis, and that is the common name we have for it, but I just think there was a culture of high sophistication that was around a long time before recorded history that we have lost track of. Where do I think it was? Well, but I totally agree with Randall Carlson, in the Atlantic and nowhere else. A lot of theories, maybe in the Mediterranean and a few other places, but that, if you read Plato, is clearly where it is. I will leave a link below, but Randall Carlson in that link goes into why he thinks the Azores is a good possibility. But these ruins, I think, needed to be talked about. Lost history, new information. That's what my channel's all about. Hope you thought that was cool, and you all have a very nice day.